Hi, this is Tim from Tiger Astronomy, and today I want to do a quick demo about using the Decorator pattern to add a feature to an existing class, but critically without changing any of the code in that class, so that it won't, for example, break my unit tests. And the second part of the demo is to show how ReSharper makes this kind of refactoring really easy. It's such a wonderful tool, I can't recommend it highly enough. So without further ado, let's do it. Okay, so this is an ASCOM telescope driver, and it has basically two layers to it, which is the top layer is an ASCOM interface, and the lower layer is responsible for all the device interfacing and input output and that kind of thing. So I have my lower layer has this interface called iDevice layer here, and this is the composition route for the driver, and basically it comes down here and it builds the device layer and returns it. So this is a great place to hook in any extra functionality that I want without the rest of the code even being aware that it's happened. So first thing to do is I need to create my decorator based on the iDevice layer interface. So if I just hold down Control and click that, ReSharper takes me right to the definition, and here we are. And then I can just use the tooltip here to create a derived type, i.e. an implementation of the interface, and it just puts it directly underneath the interface. I want to call it speaking device layer. So we just name it and press enter, and then I want to move this to its own class because I don't want really to modify this interface class. Okay, so we just move it to its own file, and there we go, we have it in its own file. And currently I've got a red squiggly here because it's saying that all these interface members are missing from the class, and it's quite a big interface. In hindsight, it's not very well designed. It's a bit of a header interface, but it serves the purpose, and I'm not going to rewrite it at this stage because it's 10-year-old code mostly. So first thing I want to do, I'm not going to just implement this interface, which I could do, but I'm going to first make a constructor. So the shortcut in ReSharper is just type CT tab. That makes a constructor, and then we can go in here and give it a parameter. So I want the class to actually take an implementation of the iDevice layer that's already been configured, ready to use, and we're going to use that as the underlying implementation. So iDevice layer, let's call it device. Okay, and then I'm going to again use ReSharper, just Alt Enter on that to introduce and initialize a field called device. So that stores my field for me, and that's my constructor done. Now I'm just going to run a code cleanup on that to tidy up some of the indentation problems, and there we go. Okay, now here comes the nice part. Having got this field which contains our underlying implementation, I can now use ReSharper to create delegating members, and that means that for every member of that interface, ReSharper will create an implementation that just simply calls the underlying implementation. So we use the code generation feature, which is Alt Insert, and we want to generate delegating members. And for this variable device, which is of type iDevice layer, so tick that and finish, and ReSharper will generate those members for us, and there's quite a few of them, so it's doing a fair old bit of work that we would have to have spent probably an hour or two typing and potentially getting wrong. So okay, so as you can see, the firmware major version property, the getter, simply returns the underlying device implementation of firmware major version. So every member in the interface is going to do something really similar. So now in my decorator, if I want the driver to speak every time a slew is initiated, for example, then if I go to start slew, there we are, start start slew to target, and then in the implementation of this I can just put my extra feature right here above the line that ReSharper has generated. Okay, so I'm not going to go into the details of how I do that, but as you can see, this is a great pattern for generating, for example, logging. If you want to add logging to an existing class and you've got an interface for that class, you can use the Decorator pattern to do that. And another common use is to add caching. Okay, so we're done for now with our speech implementation, and going back to my composition route, all I need to do now to complete the Decorator pattern is to create a new instance of iDevice layer, and we'll call it speaking device layer equals new speaking device layer, and we'll just pass in the implementation that we already had, just so, and then we'll return speaking device layer. Now the Liskov substitution principle says that my new implementation must behave the same way as the original, and it does, because it simply delegates all functionality to the original. So all of my code will be happy to work with that class and won't know that anything's changed, and all the unit tests will still pass, and I magically now have speech, or I will have once I've added the implementations. Easy, isn't it? And you can see how easy it would be to add up to create a whole stack of these decorators. Each one decorator could add logging, one could add caching, this one adds speech, and once you start thinking in terms of building things up in components like this, you can think of all sorts of uses for it. So thank you, ReSharper. That's a real time saver. It's a wonderful product. If you haven't got it, it's made so much difference to the way I write code. I highly recommend it. Check it out at the JetBrains website.